Rudra, dear friends, let me say it's good to be back at GTS, and I'm looking forward to this year's session as well. I thought perhaps what I could do in terms of introducing this year's GTS was to give a larger context of where India stands today in regard to technology in the broadest possible sense, because that's how you really approach it in terms of public policy, before, of course, drilling down very much more specifically. Now, we all intuitively know that the march of technology is really the history of human progress, and actually pretty much every era has its particular sets of technological advancements which have defined it. And we also know that the history of the world, the balances of power, the making and unmaking of nations, of civilizations, is all in one way or the other a reflection of how technology has grown. Now, in terms of the policy challenges that it presents, one, of course, is the need to regulate technology, because many technologies also come with their downsides. And we have seen that expressed in world affairs through regimes and treaties and rules. And there are some which are very obvious, as we've seen, let's say, nuclear or missile. There are many which are managed through understandings and conventions. But a second concern is, of course, the competitive aspect of technology, that those who lead the world's technologies. And to the extent that there are leaders, sometimes even monopolizers, there are consequences of that. And what has perhaps changed in recent, perhaps, decade has been that while technology was always a determinant, the interpenetrative capability of technology has actually grown, which is, it is not just that it shapes our lives, but in a very individual sense, across all the conceptual barriers that we all have in our minds, barriers of privacy, barriers of community, barriers of nation state. Technology today has shown its ability to go through all of that. So in many ways today, to the extent we look at a post-Westphalian world where the nation state is not always the determining element of any assessment, much of it, the responsibility actually arises out of the technologies with which we are all grappling. Now, where India is concerned, I think today we are in many areas very clearly playing catch-up. We are playing catch-up because while our era of reform started 3 decades ago, the era of reform was not necessarily the era of technology. That we conceptualized reform in much narrower terms. We were perhaps not as ambitious and as expansive as we should have been. So a lot of it ended up in very narrowly defined economics, much of it centered around trade and to some degree investment. And the kind of effort which other powers, some competitive, put in terms of developing the comprehensive national power, that same drive and determination was not there, very honestly, where India was concerned. And if I were today to sum up the last decade, because I think we are now very clearly at the tail end of what is the second term of the Modi government, Perhaps one major difference has been the centrality of technology to approach towards public policy and to approach towards governance and towards national security. So if one looks today at the domestic direction, the push on manufacturing, and this itself is a debate in this country. There are people who believe that it is not our competence, I would say even our karma, to do manufacturing. And that we would be wasting our time, energy, and resources embarking on that path. But here's a common sense proposition. You're not going to be able to do R&D if you don't have a competitive manufacturing. You can't encourage people to be at the cutting edge if you are not at the middle level of the same business. The second is the growth of a startup culture. A startup culture because where the innovative expressions of a few, a startup culture is able to expand that and actually build it into the mindsets of a society. The third reflection of that is actually state leading at least some critical parts of that. I think if I were to cite an example today, it would be the semiconductor mission. Still in the very early stages, but one which I assure you we are deadly serious about. And finally, of course, which Rudra also mentioned, the entire, I would say, today the effort in building and delivering on a digital public infrastructure, what Prime Minister likes to call the democratizing of technology. The technology today, the average person not only uses it, but relates to it. And of course, the figure which we like to tout out is the one relating to the UPI, the massive volumes of UPI transaction, which shows how readily people take to technology once it is there on offer. Now, while there have been undeniably enormous changes on the domestic side, technology has also been very much in the forefront of diplomacy, of foreign policy. It is today, I would say, reflected in how often we talk to our partners about reliable and resilient supply chains and what would be India's role in that new sets of chains that are being built. Or, in fact, in the conversations about critical and emerging technologies. And it could have, cascading impact in other areas. I mean, I find, particularly in the last year, many more countries are interested in mobility discussions because the world of technology is also accelerating the world of mobility. So I would, I know that there's a lot that you will all be discussing. At the moment, of course, one particular area of interest is the debate about responsible AI, and I was very pleased today when I was in Parliament to learn from my colleague Rajiv Chandrasekhar that he will be speaking to you about it, I think tomorrow or day after, that he is absolutely the right person where the government is concerned for that particular subject. Overall, I would say when it comes to technology, today the challenge, as it is in much of international relations, is how to compete, but how to compete with responsibility. So that is, and responsibility and competition do not always easily go together. So that I see as today one of the biggest challenges in international relations. So when I look at the broad set of issues that you will be talking about, for me, much of that comes to managing it at a interstate level and at a multilateral level. So I really look forward to your energetic discussions and then try to see where the derived wisdom from that is useful for me. Once again, I thank you all for being here and for having the patience to listen to me once again. Thank you.